Well, today we're going to be doing some florals. So I'm going to be using watercolor paper. And I love it because it's so thick and heavy. And there's a hot press side and a cold press side, which is the smooth side is the hot press and the textured side is the cold press. I'm using Simon Hurley's tool set, paste tool set, and I'm using his palette knife today. I'm using Ranger brushes, Lunar paste. I'm going to be using the traffic cone, and for the green we'll be using Leda Gata. Very, very beautiful. You'll see these are just outstanding. Okay, so also we're going to be doing a watercolor technique. The colors of the watercolor technique, I'm going to be using Simon Hurley's dye inks, and I'm going to use Gur, Shooting Star, Bee Sting, Fake Plant, and Cookie Dough. So that'll be delicious. Let's get busy because we got a lot to do today. So I'm going to use a little Shooting Star for my yellow, and we're going to make a little still life. This is beautiful. And it's so easy to do. So what I'm going to do is just take my brush, and I like the bigger size brush, and I'm just going to kind of like put little drops of water down here, and I think that I'd like an S shape, so I'm just going to kind of throw little drops at different locations, and you can see from the shine where your locations are. So what I'm going to do is take a little water on the side here to just touch the tip of that brush in there and just tap it into these little puddles and let it move. So the one thing I love about the inks that Simon makes, these are water soluble. So if you enjoy doing watercolors, you're going to love this because they're way more intense, which I'm kind of intense, so I like that. So I'm just tapping on them, and it'll fade a little bit, but not too much. Not like watercolors. Very strong, flavorful color. I'm going to take one drop on the tip of a smaller brush and just put it right on the edge and let it move on its own. So you can make a puddle, right? And just put a little drop of ink into it. These are, like I said, they're water-soluble inks. And you see how they crawl and make their own design? That's the magic. Are they little buds? They could be. Maybe this one's sideways. I don't know. It'll crawl, and I love that. I just think of shapes more than anything. Just think of the shape and just let it crawl. And you can reinforce as much as you want or as little as you want. Okay, so now I'm going to use a little of the Fake Plant color, which is green. And I'm going to put that right there. Now these colors are so intense and delicious that you only use a little bit. So what I like to do is put a little bit of water on the side, touch into the color, and bring it over so it's not so intense. Wipe it out of my brush a little bit and just kind of like, let's make a little beautiful stems. And we'll just connect them. Nothing very difficult. Maybe we get a little cluster. Think of a story as you're painting. It'll help you decide where you want to put things. I'm going to dip that in water and just kind of put down a leaf. And all I'm doing is tapping. I'm not really putting a leaf, you know what I mean? I'm just tapping some color. Coming out in lines. You can always come back and make it bigger if you want. That's up to you. But let it just be natural feel to it, and let it tuck behind some of the areas, and let it blend into the yellows. Remember, yellow and green are right next to each other on the color wheel, so they work really well. You can put a dot up where it connects to the flower, and it will bleed down, and you'll get that beautiful blend, and you don't have to work for it. It's just automatic. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. A little darker where it comes out of the stem. That's all you do is just touch it. And it will crawl up. But look at the vibrancy of the color. This is amazing product. I'm not kidding. If you're a watercolor painter, you're going to love this. No more wishy-washy paintings. I'm stealing from here. Maybe I just want little ones coming off as well. Maybe something underneath there. A little growth. So I think these things, as I'm painting, I think, oh, would there be a little growth there? A little, you can even swirl, if you're a swirler, little tendrils. Then just hit the side and let the ink do all the work. See how this moved? See how that made it kind of a mess? It's okay, because now they're turned into a leaf. See, don't worry about anything. But the idea is to really get your eye to realize when something's coming out to you for free and changes, can you use it? And you can use it just by using your imagination, and then you can come back and forth. Maybe we want a little green center here. Now I'm just going to take water on that wet brush and just tap around and bleed into the yellow. Do you see how it blends and merges together? And it almost makes for a very cohesive painting. So that's a real quick, easier one. Okay, so let's do another one. A sunflower painting. It's a little more advanced, but I know you can do it. It's going to be fascinating. So I'm going into my yellow and just tapping in this big, huge glob. Now the other thing I like about this is I can also take a towel and just wipe it around and get that nice glow all over the paper. So that works nicely as well. And then I'm going to go back into the yellow and just put in that center again, and with some water, and let it move. So the centers are brown, but I'm using the yellow as a base color, and I'm just kind of pulling out from the center out so I get a nice variation of my petals. And I think that's really pretty, but I want it to have some pizzazz. So now I'm going to go into a little of the Grr, which is a brown, and I'm just going to take just a little bit and just kind of tap it. And do you see all that blending that it does on its own? It's really, really nice. You got to use very little bits. And let it move. You might add a little bee sting, which is like a red. And no more wishy-washy art when it comes to watercolor. Dye, it really is magnificent. Look at that. Look how beautiful that looks. I'm just going to bring that dirty brush in and dance it around. Where it joins the petals will be a little bit darker. And you can soften it down just a little bit. There you go. Good, done. Now I'm going to go back into some of the bee sting and some of the shooting star. And just here, my paper is still very wet, and I'm just going to tap on that with these two mix here, and just right at where the petals come out of the flower. I want it to flow out on its own. So make sure it's juicy enough. That's the only thing that you got to make sure you got a lot of juice in there. If your paper starts to dry, not a big deal. You just start adding more water on there. Then come back and get some of that mix that you like and just let it crawl and let the painting do all the work. So if the light's coming in this direction, it'll be hitting the tips and a little darker in here. So, and then the same thing on the other side, it'll be a little cooler. Just touching the bottom and letting it crawl. Look at how beautiful that is. Now I notice that I'm not that wet over here, so I'm going to put some more water here, here, and here. I kind of like doing 3 at a time, and I can come back and I'm going to do bigger ones too. I'm going to put these outside the realm of the paper because it makes things look bigger. And I'm just going to hit that area where it comes out. And you can see it start to take form beautifully. Now I'm going to go more into the shooting star because I want it to be lighter over here and I want it to be more yellow. Because red is cooler than yellow. So even though you think red is a warm color, it's cooler than yellow. So I want to keep my yellow pretty clean on this side. And I like to stagger the leaves because some of them they're very huge. The petals, sunflower, very huge. And I can also carve back into my flower, so I'm going to show you that as well. I'm going to go into the green a little bit now, and that's called Fake Plant. And I just thin that out as well, and I start in the corner, and I just want to give the feeling of texture. So I'm bouncing while my yellow dries, and I'm staying away from the yellow for the most part. Not completely, but for the most part. Maybe I'll have a big leaf down here, I don't know. I'll just put some green down for now and decide later. Look how pretty that is. Already, and we haven't even done anything. And all I'm doing is tapping in color. Now I don't mind if it blends in a little bit with these petals because green is a cooling agent and it actually pushes things back and forth quite nicely. Look how beautiful that looks already. And so if it goes into the petal a little bit at this point, and my petals are just damp, they're not really saturated, it'll blend a little bit and it'll join things together a little. I like a harmonious painting. I like it when things join and connect. So I'm just going to soften this. Now a lot of people would say, oh, that's all done, that's beautiful, but it isn't. Not if we're going to take it to the next level, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, now I adjust my yellows again. I'm washing my brush out pretty good, and I want to go into my yellow, and I might like a feeling of a little light coming through, so I'm going to tap on that green with the yellow. So now you know that the whole area is sunny and happy. And I'm also going to tap back into here. I like the white spots showing because it gives even more brilliance to it. But look at the color. So rich. Watercolor's painter's dream right here, I'm telling you. And we're not done. I'm loving it. Okay, so now I'm going to put that brush down. I'm going to get a smaller brush. And back into my green, and I'm thinking a big leaf coming out because they have big leaves. But I'm not going to show the whole leaf. I'm just going to give the impression. And it's darker underneath. And I'm just going to use water and kind of scrape out the shape of that leaf and the petals at the same time. And we're just going to bring it in. And this will be the leaf. But I want it soft on the edges. A little darker underneath. And this is where you can carve out a petal. Sunflowers are so fall, aren't they? They're so beautiful. Fall's like one of my favorite time of year. Let's make a leaf coming out this way. Now I'm going to go back and address the petals coming out. Now these are very important, so I'm going to just go with the shooting star again and tap on that right in there. And this is going to be very light, so I don't want to go too far on that. But I want that feeling of things coming out. Hint of a petal separation, but with just the yellow. And just leave it at that. Okay, I like it. I'm going to use a little of that green in that little brush, and I'm going to just walk that in. Just a little. Maybe I want to carve out a leaf there. So that's how you carve out a leaf. You just kind of start and you kind of figure out where your leaf is and your petals are, and then you just go in and add more color. And as I'm darkening this area, these are lighting up. But again, I want it rather loose. So if you notice it isn't moving, then just add a little more water to your color. Let's address the dark side of the flower. So I'm going to add a little more green over in here. And I'm letting it just dance. There could be a petal underneath and another petal up in front. So I might just give a sense of that. So you can add and take away anything you want. And I do like a vignette where it's darker at the corners. I like the vignette feel. I like how it gives more brilliance to my painting. And there's a little leaf. Not all leaves are huge. And I'm just basically starting to carve things out a little bit. Going back into my yellow. And go into that greenish area and softening that back. I'm going to take a little cookie dough. It's a very nice brown and it goes good with these colors. And I'm just going to take a little of that with a lot of water and just start at the back side of this petal. And I'm going to mix a little of the yellow into it as well. Then just using water, I'm tapping it out and letting it blend. This is a cooler color, so it's going to push that back, and this pops forward even more. See how that worked? Do it as many times as you want. I would suggest you do it a little at a time, because so you can control it. And just kind of soften those little petals out. Let's have that one kind of tip in. Try to make things uneven, you know, it's really hard. I don't know why, but our bodies like to make everything perfect, and we really don't want it that way. That doesn't look very realistic, believe it or not, because there's no such thing as a perfect flower or a perfect anything in nature. I'm going to take that cookie dough and some of the shooting star and just kind of carve out some areas and push some petals further back. Do you see how that one's going back now? I'll even take another drop and just drop it in there. And tap on wherever you think your world is and how your petals are coming out. The painting will actually tell you where the petals are if you really pay attention. We want to darken this side again, so I'm going to go into a little more of that cookie dough shooting star and darken this side. And darken underneath here so that petal pops out. Darken in here just a little bit more. But I'm thinking round. It needs to be darker here, lighter, and then back into the darks a little bit, because the sunlight's kind of coming this way, so it's hitting this, it's going to hit here. So I'll get a little more yellow in that, but it's a little darker than over here. Okay, now what I want to do is add a little more of a vignette with the green on this edge and on the side. So you can see how brilliant these colors stay. These are phenomenal. I want this side to be darker than this side. This side here is going to be darker because I want these to be even lighter, and to do that you darken underneath. These pop right out. This side's going to be the dark side, so what I need to do is darken in here and let the back side of this be light. So what I'm going to do is, just because I want a vignette feel, I'm going to take a little more of that green and just darken the corner. And then what happens with a vignette, it pulls your focus where you want people to look. But yeah, it's not interrupting what I want for lightness in here. If you go too much, you can always blot. And you get a nice blend. I do like this paper a lot. It really holds, as you can see, it's holding up well. Some papers disintegrate, these do not. Okay, that looks good. So this is, like I said, it's a more advanced piece. We're doing lots of layers. And so I'm going to go back into my cookie dough. And again, I'm going to start reinforcing the dark. Right in there. And like I say, don't forget to add some water, let it blend out on its own. You don't have to blend and work into it. You just let it do its deal. You can turn your paper if it makes it easier. I try to keep it on camera, so it's a little more difficult, but we can do that. And I'm just adding drops of the cookie dough on there just to darken this petal down a little bit. Do you see how this is popping forward now that I'm darkening the other edge? I'll mix the colors as well. I love mixing. Don't be afraid to mix your color. And maybe this one will come in a little bit more. And as you can see, the darker I get, the further this goes behind. And I want that a little bit darker. And a little darker right there. And I'm going to go into some more of the shooting star and put that in this area. So I need to turn that to come out to me. Underneath is going to be a little darker, so I'm going to go and mix that with a little bit of the cookie dough and tickling it back and forth. So once you figure out how to turn things, you kind of really get a lot of great control. And again, I'm mixing. I want that darker back there and bring it forward. Less and less on my brush, so I'll get a nice blend. Do you see how this is now popping out and how that green works? Let's put some more of that green. Fake plant. And I want to just make it a little darker right in there. I'm tapping off on my brush so it isn't too loaded. And I want to make that nice turn right there. That's a different shape and a different size. And bring that a little bit over. And then just kind of wiggling it with water. Now I want to take a little more of that yellow, put that in here. And I'm going to mix it again with a little cookie dough. And put that in there, because I want that one underneath this particular petal. To do that, I'm pushing it down by using a little more of the cooler color, which is the cookie dough. Do you see how that went underneath? And you can tweak it as much as you want. And I'm just using the cookie dough as my darkening agent and bringing it in. So now I'm telling people where it's growing out of. And you can do this. Just be patient. I have faith in you. Now, you know, if you ever need any help or questions, you can just go on Facebook and just look up my name. And I'm happy to help you out. All you have to do is send me a picture, post your picture of your artwork with whatever problem you're having, and I'm happy to help you. It's usually when you get the most frustrated is when you're almost there, you're almost done. I'm just adding some more darks. So I'm just going to use the cookie dough because it's a red, it's an orange, it's a yellow, and just put it on top to dull in that area down. Because this is my center of interest and all that, but this is not. And I don't want you looking over there too much. I want it to be, I'm directing you now where to look. So I'm just getting heavier on the cookie dough. I really like to do things a little at a time. That's just me. There's so many ways of doing the same thing. You just got to pick what's your way for you. Okay, I'm just going to soften that in a little bit and a little bit down here. Right in here, and bring that in to carve out my leaves a little bit, my little petals better. And there's a little petal here, so I'm just going to bring that down because I like this petal a lot, so I want it to be noticed. So I'm going to give it a little more attention with this. With the cookie dough. But the back side is darker than the front side. They tend to be a spiral, so if you're so inclined, you can just tap the spiral in. You don't want to cover it, you just want to tap it in so you get the texture. And it feels very much like a sunflower. I'm mixing the two colors of yellow and cookie dough. They also spiral this way. I'm mixing but sometimes I like to just spiral it out. It has that feel of the growth of the center. And then again, do the center. Let's make some beautiful accents now. So what I want is this one here to have an accent, and I think I'd like it right in this area here because it brings your vision into the center. And I'm using bee sting, and now I'm going to go in with a little of the yellow just to make an accent color. Add water. If you get too strong, just blot. It looks really nice. The trick is to blend it out a little bit. Let's get some more of those. Let's get another accent right here on the tip of this. And again, I'm using bee sting. And it makes for a beautiful, something special. It's like a special thing. What is it? It's a special thing. It not only does it give personality, it's kind of like the earrings when we get dressed. I'm going to put a little more yellow over here. And a little more yellow under here. And this one's going under, so I'm going to put that in there. This one's going over. This one's kind of coming out on its own. And this is where I start deciding which ones go under, which ones go over. And I'm going to bring a little of that mix of bee sting and shooting star to carve out my little petals. Pulling out a little bit of line work, growth lines of the flower. Let's get a little more of that green right in here. And right in here. Right in the center. I'm not going on the edges where it's a little lighter. I'm going in between it, and it gives a nice look, but yet it gets nice and dark. This is where the drama comes in. And everybody loves a little good drama. And like I said, not in the edges, go in the middle. Just dance it. You'd even have one here if you wanted. It's up to you. But do you see how now that's really popping? I'm just going to drag that green in here. And the reason why I'm using the green is because it's the complement to the red that's inside the center, and that'll darken the center a little bit more on that edge. Bring out that petal a little bit more. Want it a little darker here. And I'm bringing it all the way down to the end, but bouncing it so it has texture and it looks like leaves or whatever it ends up being, a big leaf or whatever. It's not about the leaf in this particular case. It's about this beautiful petals of the sunflower. You see how that really starts to grow. I'm just going to add some water to my mixes so they blend out. Now, if you leave it on there, it's going to get pretty dark, so you want to just blend it out a little bit. And I don't want this to be so harsh of a change, so I'm going to come back in here with a little more of that dirty brush. And I'll bring it right into my petal, right back there, because it's a cooling agent, and now that petal's turning this way. If you wanted it flat, you could do that. You just keep it the same. But if you put a little green back here, do you see how it turned again? I'll do the same thing on this one. See it turn? It just went. So your magic, you can do that. I can do a little bit more in here just to cool it so it really goes in. Soften these edges underneath with just that dirty brush. Let's get some of that brown in here of the cookie dough. I like that color. I think it's a nice color to go with the painting. And I'm just going to tap. I like it. It's very much in half, so I need to also add a little more dark in here. I'm going to go back into the yellow. Pull that in here a little bit, just to push it in a little bit more. Maybe I'd like a little bit right in here as an accent. So an accent is just a little something on the edge to show growth and how it moves, and it's like the earrings of the flower. It's its personality. It's how life is. And just soften it a little bit. I'm adding more yellow for the turn. I do want a little bit more cookie dough. Back here. Oop, that was a little bit more than I expected, but that's okay. Maybe put a little bit of on the edge. And then use water just to make it flow. And go back into the yellow. And now I'm just darkening the petals a little bit more so that this area pops out even more. And this goes back. I'm coming back in with the bee sting and just give that one a little bit more of an accent. And you can blot. That looks nice. So I need a little bit something else over here because it is the center of interest right in here. So I want this to maybe another accent right in here. Just a little one there to get you to move around the picture. So I got you going up here, down, maybe a little one right in here, but not as strong. And just put a little water on it and let it do its deal. And I'm going to mix a little of the yellow with the red of the bee sting and just kind of reinforce that a little bit more. Well, now I'm reinforcing my darks again, and I'm just going to do this on fast forward so you get the idea. I think you've kind of gotten the gist of this. And then we're going to do some real magic. And I just want to reinforce my edges a little bit more. So I'm just going to come in here. You want more cookie dough than the green because it's very strong, the green. So I'm just softening that edge. And this is, I'm just carving out the last of the petals coming out. And real easy. And then let's put this one underneath, and it kind of comes around and in. That's the way the petals are. So we're just going to soften that back. and that other one will go underneath. I'm going to take a little lunar paste. I love the blue green. I'm going to use the green and maybe a little bit of the traffic cone. And I'm going to use it with my brush. And I'd like a little shimmer to my painting. So right in these little areas where the darkest little zones are and where my little accents are, I want to give it a little bit of a shimmer. And I just think that this will really make my whole painting pop a little bit more and be even more unique, because now we're really mixing our mediums and it's going to look so stunning. Maybe a little bit on the edge here and there. I'm going to get the green, and I want to add texture to the leaves. So we're palette knife painting now. And I don't want to cover everything. I just want little hits where I want the sparkle to be, because this is the center of interest. So use the tip, put some down, scrape it out. But you want the depth. So I'm going to turn this so you can see. There's a lot of depth to it. So I'm just going to put a little puddle here. Scrape the tip into it like that. And add little bits. Like right in there would be nice. Look at how this really, it lightens the whole piece up. It really makes it a very magical moment. I'm really excited over this paste. There's so many ways of using it. I mean, I can paint with the paste, and we basically are right now. We got to tell Simon to come out with some more colors so we can do some palette knife painting. More intense. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. I mean, that's the magic right there. Now let's see. What if I put just a little bit here and there? Oh, I love that. Do you see how when you break things up with a different color, how nice that looks? Maybe just a couple of hits back here. We want the dark, but we want it broken up. So I'm going to turn this. And use my palette knife. So you can really paint with Simon's paste and his inks. And I gotta tell you, I've done a lot of watercolor painting, and this is phenomenal. It's got great glow. I'm gonna soften that edge a little bit more. See how you can do that? You can scrape into the paste, turn it, see how's it look. Oh, it looks beautiful. Scrape into it. But leave that impasto. That's what it's called, impasto, when it's real thick and beautiful. And it adds a lot to the painting, I think. So this is going to take your painting from ordinary to extraordinary. And there we go. Look at that. Look at the shimmer. Make sure you see this. So you can see the shimmer on it and the depth. Look at that center and the edges. It looks beautiful. I'm not kidding. This is great stuff. Okay, so it's like whenever I do watercolor anymore, I'm using Simon's products because these are phenomenal. Look at that color. That's so bright and beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope you try it out. And if you need any assistance, you know, you can contact me, message me. And if you send me your picture, I can help you if you're having a little issue here or there. And if not, happy painting, because I know you're all just that dang good. So enjoy the new products, because I'm not kidding. This is a must-do. Talk to you again real soon. Happy fall, everybody. Bye.